Good morning, everybody. I was just inspired to do an early Tao of the day today. I wasn't sure that I was going to do it. I was actually in the middle of my Spanish, and I was just like, "Nope, I'm going to do it." So let's go ahead and do it. Let's get into the Tao. So the Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BCE, and it translates to the canon of reason. The canon of reason has 81 verses. So the Tao Te Ching consists of 81 verses of how to live a reasonable life. And if you're interested in picking a number between 1 and 81, we'll read your Tao for the day. We'll go through it, get your opinion on it, get your thoughts on it, and then we'll go through it line by line and see what it might have in store for you, just in terms of how to live your life in a more reasonable way. Oftentimes, when we look at the Tao, it does bring up quite a bit that's going on in our lives and helps us just refocus and re-examine what it is that we are experiencing at this moment and how we're experiencing it. So often we go out in the world and want the world to change. Well, in order to live a more reasonable life, you ask yourself to kind of change the way you see the world, the way you're perceiving the world. And there's so much standard out there. It's a difficult thing to deal with because we're all living under the influence of those standards. We have standards as to how we're supposed to have been brought up, and when we have a standard as to how we're supposed to have been brought up, we often get upset at our parents or our situation growing up because, oh, there's a standard and our upbringing doesn't match or meet that standard. And so we can very often just get stuck in this idea that, like, oh, my upbringing was quote unquote bad. But in the Tao, we get rid of good and bad, and we just say, well, I had this upbringing. This is my responsibility to experience. The experience that I had is mine to have experienced. And it's not mine to just, bitch about, like, and that's a big part of what the Tao is talking about. How can you live in accordance with Tao, no matter what your situation is? Of course, there are huge implications to that in terms of trauma and other things. Yes, we don't want to be insensitive to the fact that people experience trauma, but these are still their experiences, and we have to be able to honor those in a way. Yesterday I picked number one for my Tao of the day. If anybody out there has a number between 1 and 81, I'd love to have you up and we can kind of see what your Tao has. Any number between 1 and 81. I was thinking that I might start going through the Tao just numerically, just 1, 2. Every time I get an opportunity to pick a number, I'll just pick the next one up, and then eventually I'll um, have them all looked at for myself. I don't know. Like, I'm actually being torn on that. Although I don't have another number, a couple are popping out to me. So if anybody wants a number between 1 and 81, I'd have you on, and we can talk a little bit about the Tao. Lois is going to help me out today. Hey, girl,
Hey,
you just waking up. I'm doing an early one. You're out there on the West Coast.
I know. I actually had to take Benadryl last night, or yesterday evening, and I knocked out way early, so I woke up at 2,
Oh
and
man.
I'm wide awake, and I'm like, okay, we got to go back to sleep, man. So,
Let's see if we can have a nice little lullaby for you. What number do you got?
17.
17. All right, I can just scroll to that really quick. All right, so let's look at 17. And we're looking at the Hogan translation. I know we like that one. When the master takes charge, hardly anybody notices. The next best leader is obeyed out of love. After that, there is a leader who is obeyed out of fear. The worst leader is one who is hated. Trust and respect people. That is how you earn their trust and respect. The master doesn't give orders. They work with everyone else. When the job is done, People are amazed at what they have accomplished. This one just has a different feel to me this morning because of what's going on. Because you had to take Benadryl yesterday, so it has an interesting, just different feel for me. Usually, it's pretty straightforward. How are you feeling about it?
Well, to me, every time you read the verses, I'm sorry, I see my growth, man.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm like, whoa, dude, I lived it down. Hey.
Mm. Well, and I think that's an interesting thing because we've been reading this for a while. And, the people that come on regularly, like yourself and Julie and Energy Lady and stuff, like we've covered so much territory with these. I'm intrigued because I know we know this one. You and I have, I believe, covered this one before.
No,
Maybe not
I
in the.
never did 17. I try to keep a record of what I don't do, so I don't have to put
Oh.
the same thing.
Let me let
What?
me let me
Go ahead.
read this Isabel Mears translation because this because I'm getting a sort of feeling this morning. So in ancient times, the people knew that they had rulers. Then they loved and praised them. Then they feared them. Then they despised them. The rulers did not trust the people. The people did not trust the rulers. The rulers were grave, their words were precious. The people, having finished their work and brought it to a successful issue, said, "We affirm the self."
Wow, that takes on a whole new perspective.
Doesn't it? Yeah. So this is where we're at. I'm going to read that again. In ancient times, the people knew that they had rulers. Then they loved and praised them. Then they feared them. Then they despised them. The rulers did not trust the people. The people did not trust the rulers. The rulers were grave. Their words were precious. The people, having finished their work and brought it to a successful issue, said, "We affirm the self."
That to me, that's like you quoting Bible scripture at this.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I mean? When you talk about the people needing a ruler and the way that supposedly in the Bible it tells you about the children of Israel, they needed somebody to lead. Then when the people came up to lead, first they were happy because they had some leaders, and then they were enslaved by
Yeah.
stuff, and then they were in fear, and because they were enslaved and people were taking advantage, then the people who were taking advantage were getting scared of the people, okay, because anybody could come up and I guess find out they're fraud and find out
That's
they're
right.
whatever, and then in the end the people have to come to a knowledge of themselves. It's the
That's
spiritual
right.
journey. That's just
It's
tells
the
the story of the
yeah.
spiritual journey.
That is so, yeah, like this takes on such a different approach than the other translations that we've looked at.
It sounds more scriptural than the other translations. It's more practical.
Right.
This
This
one
one
sounds
is this
more
one is
script.
uh, is all about the journey, right? And there's really nothing like as we look at this to kind of go through it line by line, one leads into the next. And
Yeah.
so in ancient times the people knew they had rulers. Like this idea that like you're born and just like us, we're
Mhm.
born and we are under the rule of the
Yes.
economic system.
No, first we're under the rule of the parents, and we just
Right, we're under
love,
the rule of
love,
the
and love.
parents, but the parents are under the rule of the economic system, and so they pass that on to us, and we all grow praising this system, praising these systems of the education system, which is geared to benefit the economic system, and all of these sorts of things. Even we can even see today that the political system is even, like is kowtowing to the economic system. So the people knew that they had rulers. You're born under the influence. The people know that they are under the influence. They don't know that, but they know that they they are inundated to the influences that are ruling over them.
Right.
Then they loved and praised them. So as a child, you love and praise that system. Us, like as children, well, we want to go out and buy our toys and our candy and our stuff and all the marketing that's out there for us. Then they feared them. Like you can easily fear a ruler for not giving you what you want or all sorts of things.
Well, you begin to realize that you're not getting what you want, but it seems like they're getting everything, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why you get that what judgment. That judgment,
Yeah.
and the judgment ruins everything for everybody. So even if they were a good ruler or whatever, and they were benevolent, you tend to assume the worst of them and say, well, if they got it, why don't I have it? And when
Right.
start comparing, you kind of screw yourself, you know.
Right.
And then when you realize, hey, I don't need to compare. Hey, this is it,
Right.
and that's how, that's life though. That's this is like
That's just a beautiful
life.
cycle, right? It's the
Yeah,
cycle of learning, really.
it is.
First you love and praise them, then you fear them, and then you despise them because you don't have and they do or whatever. The rulers did not trust the people did not trust the rulers. And then
Yeah,
all of a sudden you're distrustful of everything that's around you.
yeah, because if the rulers start feeling that, wait a minute, they're acting different. What the heck is going on? Wait a minute, are they gonna come and try to take what I have?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you realize it ain't all about that BS, it's about you finding the center of you, then things change. So yeah, this is like I said, this is just life. It's life itself, and it's biblical, and it's a cycle of life. Period. It's the
Mm-hmm.
cycle of life because we go into everything like that. I don't care what when you start a new job, like that. You go in
Mm-hmm.
wide, she tell you got a new supervisor, you all gung ho and stuff, and then you start seeing some shit, and then you start feeling contrary. Then you start saying,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, what the hell is going on?" And then finally you come like, "Oh, dang, okay, that's what they wanted me for. You know what? I'm out."
You don't trust them, they don't trust you. And then this line really
Uh-huh.
throws me for a little bit of a loop, but I think I have a grasp on it now. The rulers were grave. Their words were precious.
Hmm.
And I always look at that as being like, when you look at a ruler, they use words to try to manipulate.
Hmm.
But at the core of their words is often a truth that you have to understand, not from the standpoint of the speaker, but from the standpoint of yourself. Like when a ruler says something, how do you respond to it? And
Okay.
when you can see how you respond to it, you can see a part of yourself.
Yeah.
And when you respond distastefully, let's say, to something that's said, you can pay attention and you can say, oh, why did I respond in that way? And when you can point that out, when you can recognize that you responded in some sort of way because you're scared,
Right.
because you have fear, because you have hatred, because you despise the ruler. You're responding in that way, and that's why it's precious. So, no matter what they say, if it makes you happy or if it makes you scared or frustrated or whatever, just like with all of this January 6th stuff going on right now, how does it make you feel? You
Wait,
don't have to pay
wait,
attention to the
stop, stop for
ruler.
1 minute. The what going on right now?
January 6th.
What's January 6th?
January 6th is when the quote unquote insurrection happened, and everybody's in court right now. Um, everybody's in court, right? Like Donald Trump's, connection to the, quote unquote insurrection that happened on January
Oh,
6th.
okay, okay. Because I'm like, I don't watch no news
Yeah, no, I don't,
and stuff
but
like that. So I'm like,
it's,
what is that?
it's
But
in
I
my,
do remember
it's,
that
yeah,
the rest
it's,
of my
it's in my periphery, so I mention it.
uh,
But anytime the news or politics or anybody says something, it's not that it says here the rulers were grave, but their words were precious because their words caused somebody to feel some sort of way.
yeah, That's right.
And
And
that's why it's precious.
yeah, and but the whole thing is the bottom line is when you get to you,
Hmm.
uh, you have to value what you think about whatever are your emotional thing by that heart center part of you. And when you get there, you don't. Then you're able to see what's real and what's not real. Whether it's fear, whether it's not fear, whether you being bullshitted or you a bullshit.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because you're either gonna be one or the other. You might be when you're not in the heart center. You bullshitting or you being bullshitted.
Yeah, that's right.
you know. So coming to grips with that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is a good one. This is a
You
good one
know,
because it talked about a lot the cycle, and this is a cycle. Every time we start something new, we enter into that cycle. But if
right.
but if
With an
we get
open, like enter into it with an open heart and say we love this thing.
uh huh
And then as it starts to settle out, oh, we're afraid of it.
uh
And then it says, oh, we hate this thing. And
huh
then
uh-huh.
you lose trust.
Yep.
And then you have to recognize your work, you know, and this could be in anything. The rulers were grave, but their words were precious. And when you can recognize that the words, the things that you have coming in are talking about you, this brings us to the next line, which is the people having finished their work and
Uh-huh.
brought it to a successful issue. That's the thing. When you take the words that are so precious and do your work with them, meaning
That's
that
right.
you check your shit,
You fact check. Yeah. Do your
right?
R&D. Uh huh.
You use their words and how they make you feel to do your work and brought it to a successful issue. You raise yourself up beyond the distrust, beyond the the hatred of the ruler, beyond the fear of the ruler, and then you can love again. But you don't love the ruler, you love yourself, which brings us to the final line. We
Yeah.
affirm the self.
Yes. 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 So yeah, this is a good one. I'd never had this one before.
You know,
Uh,
this is
yeah.
beautiful. I love that we went to mirrors on that because I think this one has a very different flavor to it than the other translation.
Well, it was more, mm, dare I say, dogmatic.
Yeah.
More
You know,
dogmatic.
but
But
it talks about the cycle, and I think the cycle is really important here. And when we
yeah,
look at the other translation, you know, it's like it talks about the kinds of leader, and then trust and respect to people. That's how you earn their trust and respect. And I agree with that, but that works on both levels, like right, like the masters don't give orders, they work with everybody else. When their job is done, the people say, amazing, we did it by ourselves. But that's just it. Like when it talked about the master's words being the thing that people are working with because it's making people feel some sort of way,
yeah, and you
that was deeper. That connected a dot that I don't think was connected in the other
know
translation.
it wasn't because they referred back to the word their words or the word being spoken to them, and they had to come to grips with it has to be their word, your own personal word being
That's
spoken
right.
to you that motivates your feelings to action. Be-
Yeah.
so like I said, it's a life cycle of everything we begin and until we become self aware and we
Why don't you come back up and finish that up? Yeah, it's such a beautiful way of looking at just this chapter.
Yeah, so I'm saying is where we all begin before we come to the knowledge of the true love of self. And this is not nothing selfish love, but you know what I'm talking about. When we come to
Yeah,
the love of our center of our being, we all start out like that, where we put all the stakes in the rulers. We put all the stakes in their words and what they're going to do for us, and what somebody else is going to change the life for us, and somebody else is going to provide us with the money to do this for us. When it comes down to it, ain't no damn Superman coming to save your ass. Okay, you better get up
that's
and
right.
change it down on yourself. Okay, and it's that part. It's that part when we come to the knowledge of this is on me. This ain't on them. This is on me. You
Yeah,
know, I mean, and the thing is, and when you also come to that part where, wait a minute, if I'm suffering in this, and I'm suffering in that. What's the common denominator in my suffering? Me.
Me,
I'm to me.
always,
And you always got to
100%.
come back to you, and then realize that you were hearing colorful, flowerful words in order to motivate you to do something for them when you should have been giving yourself them beautiful, colorful words so that you can become creating for you and for the collective. So
That's right.
it's a big difference, and I love you, Martin. And I'm gonna let
I love
somebody
you.
else come up here. I'm gonna let you read a couple of yours because I told you if I hadn't woke up, I wouldn't have caught you.
Well,
I'm
I'm glad.
on
Yeah,
my
I'm
way back
glad.
to
I'm
sleep
glad you
now.
got up. Like, I hope you can get yourself like. Hope you can get a little bit more sleep this morning and have a great day.
Well, if I don't, I'm gonna get up and wash some dishes and finish cleaning before I get ready to go on my trip in a week and a half now.
You're
So
going to France, yeah?
yes, buddy. Oh, I'm so excited. I want to pack right now, but my dog gets all crazy when she sees the suitcase because
Oh
I
yeah.
do travel a lot.
Okay.
So, but I
Well,
love you, and I will talk to you when I see you again.
yes, absolutely. I'll be around.
Okay.
Love you,
All
babe.
right. Bye bye.
Bye bye. All right. If anybody has a number between 1 and 81, I would love to read a little Tao with you. I just read number 17, and we read the Isabel Mears version, and such a beautiful take on that number 17. Her Majesty Abby, how are you, love?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am beautiful as always. I'm
Oh,
just
that's
loving,
good.
loving, loving who I am and where
Yeah,
I am.
that's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. My number is two.
Two. Oh, that's beautiful. That was a number I was contemplating picking today. So let's dive into number two.
Okay.
When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. Being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short, they define each other. High and low depend upon each other, and before and after follow each other. Therefore, the master acts without doing anything and teaches without saying anything. Things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear and she lets them go. She has, but doesn't possess. Acts, but doesn't expect. When her work is done, she forgets it. That's why it lasts forever.
Hmm. Hmm. That's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. So we'll break it down. And it sounds like you're just getting up in the morning.
Yes.
You are? That's beautiful. It's
Yes.
okay. Let's snuggle in a little bit and let's start coming back into our bodies and just kind of being soft at this moment.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
Mhm.
and this is a beautiful way to start our day because what we start with here is when people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. You know, the morning when we wake up is a special time because
Mhm.
it's a time when we often don't make the decision as to who we are at this moment, but we bring
Yeah.
in all of the everything that we were yesterday. And then we can
Mhm.
often wake up just in the same stir that we were in yesterday, seeing the world as we did when we went to
Yeah.
sleep. You know,
Yeah.
like we can see, like it's wonderful if we fell asleep and thought everything is beautiful and we wake up and think everything is beautiful. But very often,
Mhm.
especially if we do it mindlessly, we go to sleep and think about the things that we didn't do right.
Yeah.
And then when we wake up, we have this creation of like what's not right. Well,
Mm.
before we had an idea of what wasn't right, we created right. You know, when
Mhm.
we're born, our parents tell us what's right and thus expressing to us what's wrong. They say they reward us. And then when we don't get rewarded in that same way, we realize that we didn't do as right as we were expected to do.
Mm.
And that's what this first sort of section is. And when you wake up in the morning, it's so great to try and bring in a sense of broadening of our understanding and dropping some of those ideas of what's beautiful. How about this is beautiful no matter what?
Yeah.
I like to say to a lot of people, like, don't let your definition of perfection
Yes.
rob you of yours, because it's those definitions that keep us from actually expressing ourselves completely because we're afraid of being wrong.
That's the word. Definition.
Yeah.
Definition. Yes. Because, whenever you try to define something, you lose it.
Yes.
You lose its ability to expand. You
Right.
lose its ability to give you another perspective of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, just like you said, you just have to let things be. Don't define it as good or bad.
That's right.
Just be.
And that's where this comes in. When people see some things as beautiful, once
Hmm.
you create the definition,
Mm.
then you have created its opposite.
Yeah.
When people see some things as good, other things become bad. The other things weren't bad before you made it good.
Wow.
And once you make that good, and very often when you
Hmm.
wake up in the morning, you reignite all of the definitions you carried. You're like, oh, I need coffee because
Yeah.
coffee's good. Oh, right, coffee is good for me now because I need to wake up and and all of the things. Oh, I don't want to go to work. And all of a sudden we start kind of creating all of these things rather than just waking up and being here now. And of
Mm.
course, that's not easy in our world, but if we can just broaden the definitions a little bit every day, then we can see the world from a new perspective.
Yeah. In other words, what I'm getting from you is that defining keeps you a prisoner, meaning that
Yes.
as you keep defining, you're making this close boundaries around you. And before
Yes.
long, you're suffocating because you've already concretized these boundaries around you that you can see beyond.
Exactly. And this
Mm.
is where this next section comes in. And this next section goes through 5 pairs. Being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short define each other. High and low depend upon each other. Before and after follow each other. And after reading that, I like to say, so what's it matter?
Yeah.
So why does it matter if you're talking about being or non-being? Why does it matter if you're talking about easy or difficult?
Mm.
Many people want to focus on, oh, it was so hard. Many
Yeah.
people want to say, oh, it took so long. Many people want to say, oh, it's so high and so hard. Oh, before and after follow each other. So if you have a before, accept that there will be an after. And that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that either is good or bad or beautiful or ugly. And then
Mhm.
after those pairings, there is therefore the master acts without doing anything and teaches without saying anything.
Mm.
See,
Wow.
all of those pairs that we went through, they do their work. The master doesn't have to express it in any way. Difficult and easy support each other, so the master doesn't have to put any energy towards either of them.
Mm.
You can just act without doing anything. You know, that that idea of not doing anything is
Mhm.
interesting, because how do you not do anything?
Right. Right.
And I remember the first time I recognized it when I dropped someone off at their home, and I had to drive, I don't know, it was like 6 miles or whatever, in
Mhm.
Chicago. That's a distance. And I drove someone home. And thanks for driving me home. And I was like, oh, it's nothing. And my jaw dropped as they were getting out of the car, because I was just like, I literally just said, it is nothing. I did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like that which is within your being, rather than being within your doing,
Mm-hmm.
that which is done through your being is nothing. It is just who you are.
Right. Wow. So in other words, it looks life is a continuous, it's almost like a continuous scale where it's seeking balance. And therefore, we have those tendencies to compare one against each other, trying to find a middle ground
And defining.
and defining.
And if I were to define, oh, I have to drive 6 miles, that, and it's this hour, and oh, it's bad.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you want to do a favor for someone, they go, oh no, here are the reasons that you shouldn't do that, because they don't have the ability to receive your love. They can say, oh, it's too late, oh, it's this, oh, it's
Mm,
that, but you're like, no, literally it's nothing.
yeah.
Like, I am going to do this because I am just being drawn to do it. And
Yeah.
every time we're drawn to do something, there is no good or bad. I'm not being good. I
Mm-mm.
could I could, be going home and have a flat tire, and I can just change that tire and continue on home. Or I can get that flat tire and I can say, "Oh, if I didn't have to drive them home, if I didn't get this flat tire, these things are bad." Well, as soon as I define bad, then I'm defining what's good, and then I may never want to drive someone home ever again.
I'm beginning not to like the word define.
Right. As soon as you define one thing, like the Tao also, like, and I read this yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, words or names, like
Mm-hmm.
names meaning definitions, are the
Yeah.
beginning of all particular things, meaning that, like, you are part of the entire universe
Mm-hmm.
without exception, and yet you see yourself as separate from the tree,
Yeah.
from the wind. You're like, oh, if I could be a bird and fly. Well, you are.
Mm.
Now, be that. Be that
Yeah.
in your heart. Know that. Touch
Mm-hmm.
that bird. Like, be there. You
Mm.
are these things. You are not separate. In
Yeah.
your heart, yes, it looks like you're separate, but in your heart, you are and hold that Godhead. You hold that that spirit that is connected to
Mm.
everything. This is why we can act without doing anything.
Yeah.
It just arises from us. And we can teach without saying anything. Just by being, other people can learn.
Mm. And this is why, and it put emphasis on the awesomeness of being in a collective consciousness, because
Right.
as I sit here, if I identify with everything around me, I can actually be them, meaning that
Yes,
I can live through them without
absolutely.
really limiting myself. So I see a tree, and because I know it's part of me, I can live through the tree. If I see a bird, because it's part of me, I can live through it, meaning that I can support it. If I see Martin John on here,
Hmm.
I can live through him, meaning that I feel he's part of me, and therefore I can support.
You can support
Yes.
me and yourself,
And myself.
because we
Yes.
are
Indirect.
connected. And if we
Yes.
isn't, it isn't separateness.
It's
We
not.
can understand truth
Yeah.
by knowing that. And this is like, you can teach without saying anything, because you can teach through that energetic love.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, we really like the obvious. We really like to learn by getting a test and getting a good score, but, like, really
Mhm.
learning happens slowly over time through connection.
It does. It does.
And then this one finishes by saying, things arise and she lets them come, things disappear and she lets them go. She has, but doesn't possess acts but
Mhm.
doesn't expect. Like, and what you're saying is like you have
Mhm.
access to that tree, but you don't possess the tree.
Yeah.
You have access to me, but you don't possess me. You
Yeah.
have access to
Yes.
everything on in the universe,
Mhm.
and yet you don't possess any
Yeah.
of it. It isn't yours to do what you will with it, but you
Yeah.
can learn from everything. And I don't even think you
Mm-mm.
possess yourself,
Exactly.
like you get to experience this. And
Mhm.
so like just walk into it with wide eyes every morning when you wake up. Don't be
Mhm.
who you were yesterday. Be who you are today.
Yeah. Also the word possession just sounds to me like seizing, meaning
Yeah.
that you cut it short, you cut its life short. Because
Yeah.
for me to possess a beautiful rose, I have to pluck it
Mhm.
and keep it
There's
and not
this
let it grow.
there's a song that says the rose died because you picked it,
Oh my gosh. Wow.
you know.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm glad I picked two because I was seeing two cats in a row in my dream. So I'm like, I'm gonna pick two.
Oh. And this one just ends with when her work
Mhm.
is done, she forgets it. That's why it lasts forever.
Oh, I love that. You know what? I always say that because I'll come back and finish.
Yeah, come back up and finish that, land that. 'Cause I would love to hear what your thoughts are. When her work is done, she forgets it. It's so good to not be attached to your work. That's why it lasts forever.
Yes. Yes. That work is done and forgetting. It's an act that is so vital right now in my life in terms of, I do go to a lot of nursing homes
Hmm.
and I do see, especially women in the dementia unit.
Yeah,
And I think to myself, I said, how this computer, which is the mind, crashed was because of holding on to so many windows, so many things that it gets to a point that there is no movement.
yeah,
So, in order to free movement, in order to continue to have a sane mind, you have to let go. You have to let your mind be a pathway, comes and goes, open ends.
yeah. You have to
So,
forget it.
yeah, you have to. And I realize that in my line of work, which I see so many people a day, I can't keep everything in my mind. So I deal with people to the best of my ability and I let go. And then I take another one and I let go.
Yeah,
And I realize that that has reduced so much anxiety and stress.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
That's it. We have to forget because if we remember, we get caught up in the idea that it's important to remember.
Mm-hmm.
There is no right way to go about it. And
Right.
when we remember, we often can find ourselves like
Mm-hmm.
like lost in what used to be
Wow.
rather than being here in this moment. And that's what this idea of waking up with a certain idea on your mind um,
Mm-hmm.
really is about. Because if you wake up and remember who you were yesterday, well, then how do you know who the hell you are today?
Wow. Remembering almost sounds like possession.
Yeah,
Mm,
it does. And I think that it's important to be able to forget, you
yeah.
know, be present now.
Right.
Well, you're getting a call this early in the morning,
I tell you, these patients are relentless. They call me.
huh? All right. Her Majesty Abby, I love you.
All
Thank you
right.
so much for joining me.
Thank you very much, man, John. Bye bye. Have a wonderful morning.
You
A
as well.
wonderful day.
Absolutely. Mary Kay is going to join me this morning. I'm very excited. Mary, how are you?
Good morning. Wow, I heard briefly the conversation, and it's so. She talked about dementia, and
Yeah.
I have one of those memories that I could remember everything.
Yeah, that could be a curse.
I know. I could like go back to my childhood. Just give me a day, a time in a year, or trigger it, and I'll go into details.
Yeah,
It's
that's why we don't want to trigger those things.
a burden.
Yeah, it's definitely a burden. I don't think that I don't envy that at all.
At this point, at my age, I'm saying to myself, how do I just erase it? And I have a family member who is a professor of dementia, Alzheimer's, pathology, neurology, all that is connected.
Yeah.
And he also is another person, but he's able to just let it go and
Mm-hmm.
continue the following day.
That's an important, you know, it's an important lesson here, like with number two at least, where it says, when your work is done, she forgets it. When this
Oh,
moment is done, forget it.
I was going to pick number three.
Oh, good. Let's move on to number
But
three.
I want to say something. I was with my best friend Oscar yesterday, and he's like, Mary, this is the rear, rear, in the car. I don't drive. Rear, the
View mirror.
mirror window, whatever. Don't look back. I don't want to hear the history of this street, that street, where you've been. I don't want to hear it.
That's right. And
And
that's why he's a friend.
yeah, and at the end of the night, we ended up in an argument
No, I'm
because
sorry.
I did it again. And I am
Yeah.
no, but it's fine. Uh,
So
uh,
so so this number three is interesting.
yeah,
If you overesteem great men, and even though we're talking, it says here great men. What I want to do, if you overesteem anything, even your memory or that which you recall, if you overesteem great men, people become powerless. If you overesteem something, something is like all of the things that are attached to that. So if you overesteem one memory, other memories become powerless. If you overvalue possessions, people begin to steal. The master leads by emptying people's minds and filling their cores, by weakening their ambition and toughening their resolve.
wow.
He helps people lose everything they know, everything they desire, and creates confusion in those people who think that they do know. Practice not doing, and everything will fall into place. As I look at this and I hear about your story with your buddy Oscar yesterday, like the master leads by emptying people's minds. My goal, as maybe a master or whatever, is to get you to be here with me now and not to have you over-esteem or overvalue your ideas and your thoughts and your memories. Because if you overvalue possessions because you do possess those memories, people begin to steal. So what does that mean?
You just described my mother,
Yes,
the woman I hated that I love so much.
absolutely.
I would come home and things would just be disappeared, and I would
But
ask,
that also has to do with your ideas, right? Like if you tell somebody something, they could adopt that and use it against you.
yes,
And so this is where, like, if you overesteem or overvalue anything, it's going to turn on you. You are going to take away from everything else, because this moment, Mary, this moment where you and I are connected, is the most important moment. It is the moment that we have right now. And if we overvalue the past, we don't get to have this moment, because the past is being brought up all the time. And if I trigger a memory from your past, then where do you go? You go away into the past. And I know I've spoken with you before where I've had to bring you back
Yeah.
because you went somewhere else. And it's like, oh no, Mary, we are not going there because I can't go with you. And so we're gonna stay here together. And this is where the master leads by emptying people's minds and filling their cores. I want to fill your core. Your mind is fine, but it's already so full. I want to fill you with, like, bless you, bless you. I want to fill you with a sense of self. And I want to, like here it says, weaken their ambition and toughen their resolve. I want to make you, like, you are a tough woman, Mary. You've been through quite a bit.
I know.
But you've also given up a lot of yourself along the way in order to do that.
Yes.
And that's something that I don't think is worth it. You are so much more important than the resolve and the points that have been made throughout your life. He helps people lose everything they know, everything they desire, and creates confusion in those who think that they know. And I think that that's a big deal. Like when you can let go of knowing, and Mary, knowing is such an important thing for you because you have seen so much and done so much. But you are also here now.
Yes.
You're here, and you don't have to know anything to be here. You are perfect right now, here as you are.
Wow.
Practice not doing, and everything will fall into place.
And now I understand him.
Yeah.
He just said it in different words, and you clarified it.
Yeah, he just wants to hang out with his buddy,
Yeah.
and he loves you.
Yes.
And in order for him to be able to do that, you have to be accessible. And when you are stuck in your own memory, because your memory is such a strong asset, and it has served you so well, but it doesn't serve your relationship with Oscar,
Yes. I
because
agree.
Oscar can't go with you.
No.
And so it takes work though. Like I just put out a little ebook with all of my quotes in it. One of the quotes that is in it is about oh, I forgot which one I wanted to use. But it is about being here now, being allowing yourself to just let go of the idea of who you are, so that you can be present with who you actually are right now. You don't have to prove anything to Oscar. He loves you either way.
But I just keep going back, and I'm working on this. I go back, and I have to explain things in detail. And
No,
I
you
know
don't.
it's annoying. I know it's annoying for me.
Yeah,
Here I go. I'm doing it again.
that's right. You do
Doing.
not need to explain things. You do not need a reason. You do not need any of that. What you need is to just allow yourself to be you. You don't have to tell people why. They did studies of like of people, and they were like, we're gonna test your brain, and we want you to squeeze this balloon whenever you want. You know, whenever you feel like you want to squeeze the balloon, you go ahead and squeeze the balloon. And when they tested people, they realized that their brain told them to squeeze the balloon before they made the decision to squeeze the balloon. Like just before they made the decision. They're like, I made the decision. And when did you make the decision? And we found that the actual decision was made well before you
Yeah.
made the decision. It's not you making the decision. It's not about you. It is like, so when we come up with all of the reasons why, when we come up with all of that kind of stuff, when we explain and express and remember and all, that's all just us trying to be important. But really, we're not.
We
And
are not.
if we can remember that we're not as important as we think we are, then we can live a healthier life.
My grandmother used to tell me, she was very intelligent, and from time to time she would say, "Stop.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss."
Yes. Absolutely. Those, the Tao has a verse that says, those who talk don't know, those who know don't talk.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah. Silence is a beautiful thing. And if you can't sit in silence, then there's something upsetting within you about you. And those are the things that I work with in my Recover Yourself work. And that's all very important to being in this place where you can practice not doing so everything falls into place.
I'm gonna start working with you on that.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah,
Please
I
do.
will.
Yeah, reach out to me. Reach
I
out
will.
to me on Instagram or on here. You can send me a message. Let me make sure
I
that
have you on my Instagram,
yeah.
and I have
Yeah,
your
good.
yeah,
And you
I
can
have your
message me here as well. So you um definitely message me and then we can start talking. I have my workshop which is available on my website, and I also just
yes.
put out this book of quotes that might be a really good place for you to start. It's only $5, but you can download it, and
Okay,
it's got 28 quotes on it. It's a really helpful little
I
tool
love
to
books.
just start understanding the depth that you can achieve.
I will. I will.
Yeah. Oh,
Good.
Mary, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
coming
so
up.
much. Everyone have a blessed day. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. Oh, so beautiful. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If anybody has a number between 1 and 81, I would love to have you up and we can talk about the Tao. I'm Martin John. Like I was telling Mary, you can go to my website, martinjohn.com, and you can get a book of quotes of mine. Those quotes are all about recovering yourself. Because when you get to recover who you are, then you get to recover everything. And that's even what the Tao is. When I have you come up and we talk about the Tao, it's all about living a reasonable life. Why is it reasonable? Because you're being you and you get to be who you are. There's no need to try and impress or live under the influence of other people or things. You get to be you. And that's what recovering yourself is all about. So much of the conversation of recovery, and I have 21 years clean and sober, be 21 in December, or 22 in December. Um, like so much of the conversation around recovery is in the realm of recovering from. But I talk about what is it we're recovering to. Because when we can recover ourselves, when we can recover who we are, and not just who we thought we were, who we think we are, but who we actually are, when we can recover who we are, and we are God. No, I don't want to mince words at all on that. You're creative. You are the creator, and you're connected to all things. Yes, that is what you are here to be. And so when we can recover to that, little by little, making those little shifts, it's not something you go to sleep and wake up the next day and become, but it's something that you move towards. And you move towards that because you're living life. What else is there to do here? This is what life is. Life is to be connected to all things. And that's why we look at the Tao, because the Tao really kind of speaks of the direction that we're going, even though it was speaking of the direction we were moving from. We now have logic. Now, with logic, how do we live more reasonably with logic? And the Tao was written as logic was taking hold. It was written 3,000 years ago as the frontal lobe really started taking hold of society and living day to day. Now it's us. Right now we're moving back into a state where we are able to live more reasonably. And I have lots of thoughts on that. We can talk about all of that stuff over time. Love you guys so much. Thank you for joining me. Definitely check out my website where I have, like I said, that ebook as well as my Recover Yourself workshop available for you to check out and have access to. If you're interested in working with me, definitely reach out to me, DM me here, or if I'm not following you, you can DM me on Instagram and some of my other website stuff, like my links. My link tree is here, so if you go anywhere on my link tree, you can probably message me. Give me a message, and I would love to set up a call and go to my website and set up a call directly as well. Thank you so much for joining me for Tao of the Day. I'm your host, Martin John. I host all things Recover Yourself. And until next time, you keep recovering yourself.